My daughter says I'm controlling, insisting on marrying a small-time thug. At the wedding, she had a nanny act as her mother. I was so furious that I had a heart attack, and only then did I find out. She wasn't even my biological daughter. 1. I never expected to open my eyes again. The morning sun shines on me, a long-lost warmth. Mom, why are you getting up so late today? I've been waiting for breakfast, starving over here. Hearing Bai Zhao's voice, I felt a mix of emotions. In my previous life, my heart disease was caused by worrying about her. Back then, she was heavily pregnant, wearing a cheap wedding dress with loose threads, determined to marry Gu Ming. Ever since she was born, her father had cherished her like a jewel, determined to keep every bad influence far away. We tried everything to protect her, but in the end, we couldn't stop it. By that time, our relationship with her had already deteriorated. She didn't even invite us to the wedding. Forget it. She doesn't respect us as parents, so we'll just act like we don't have a daughter anymore, her father said, defeated. Even her father had lost hope in her, ready to give up. But she's the child I carried for 10 months. How can I not go to her wedding? I couldn't let it go. After much pleading, I convinced him to attend the wedding. When we arrived, Gu Ming's face darkened. He still held a grudge against us for breaking up their high school romance and wanted his gang buddies to throw us out. Bai Zhao was caught in the middle, trying to hold him back, but he shoved her away. Heavily pregnant and in a poorly fitting dress, she could hardly move. She stumbled, almost falling. I reached out to steady her, terrified something would go wrong. But she avoided me, stepping behind Gu Ming. Just go, she said impatiently. You're no longer my parents. Can you stop interfering in my life? Bai Zhao, you're being so unreasonable. Your mother went through so much to give birth to you, and today, she emptied her jewelry box to give you a dowry. How could you break her heart like this? Her father scolded. Don't you dare yell at my woman, Gu Ming snarled, his jaw tightening. He wiped his thumb across his lips and cracked his neck, lifting his fist toward us. Come on now, it's a happy day, no need for violence, someone intervened. I looked closer, it was the nanny we hired when Bai Zhao was born. Pinned to her chest was a corsage that read Mother of the Bride. Bai Zhao hadn't even invited me to her wedding but had asked someone else to be her mother. My heart pounded, as if it was about to leap out of my chest. Only my husband noticed my discomfort. Look what you've done to your mother, he shouted. Mother, mother. All you've ever cared about is her. It's like I never existed. Bai Zhao's voice was sharp, as though she had suppressed it for years. You've driven me to the brink of madness. I finally found out I'm not your biological daughter. No wonder you never loved me. It turned out that when I gave birth, I hemorrhaged and nearly died. I was too weak to care for my baby. My husband was busy looking after me and couldn't tend to the child. So we hired a nanny. That nanny secretly swapped the babies without our knowledge. My biological daughter was sent to an orphanage, while I raised her child in luxury. My heart raced even faster, and I collapsed, my body going limp. In my final moments, I closed my eyes in vain. Bai Huayu. Bai Huayu. I heard my husband's anguished cries. Mom. I also heard Bai Zhao's wails. She finally called me mom again. But I couldn't open my eyes anymore. Before I died, I had so many regrets. The book on my nightstand, left unfinished, the anniversary gift I hadn't given to my husband. The acquisition of our competitor's company still incomplete. And all the vibrant dreams I had before becoming a mother. There was no longer a chance to achieve any of them. 2. I don't like others invading my personal space, so we never hired a housekeeper. No matter how busy my husband and I were, we would still wake up early to make breakfast for our daughter. We spoiled her too much, letting her take everything for granted. Now, having lived another life, my heart has turned cold. Go buy your own breakfast. There's a food stall outside, 3 to 5 yuan will get you whatever you want, I replied, wrapped in a blanket. The sounds from the kitchen grew louder. Bai Zhao was angrily pouring milk into a glass. Her way of acting out was smashing cups and dishes. In my previous life, I was caught in endless mental exhaustion. We had taught her manners so carefully when she was young. How did she grow up to be so ungrateful? Now I knew, she didn't have our blood running in her veins. An ungrateful child can never be truly raised. I got up and stood behind her. What now? You're driving me crazy, she snapped, shaking her shoulders. Hold still, there's a gray hair. Let me pull it out, I said, my back to her, a cold smile curling my lips. I had raised someone else's daughter for so many years, it was time to find my own child. The food at those stalls, who knows if it's clean or sanitary? Who dares eat that? Indeed, the hand that feeds is always resented. We had made time to cook for her every day, and she took it for granted. One missed meal, and she couldn't handle it. Bai Zhao, if I recall correctly, your father saw you and Gu Ming eating street food the other day. I held up one of her hairs and casually said, even if it's just street food, all he ordered was braised eggplant. The two of you, full of love, ate with gusto over just that one dish. The food from those stalls is much cleaner. If you can eat that, you can eat this. If not, go hungry. I had never spoken to her in such a cold tone. So, Bai Zhao froze for a moment, then stormed out. After hearing the door slam shut, I picked up my phone and called my assistant. Come pick something up. Help me do a paternity test. I needed to find out if what the nanny said was true. I had to find my real daughter. 3. On the phone, the assistant reminded me that he had scheduled an annual health checkup for me and my husband. Recalling my previous life's checkup, it was quite interesting. I had several abnormal health indicators, and the doctor explained that I had a gynecological issue. But I had always been very conscientious about hygiene. I was utterly baffled. Coincidentally, during that period, my husband Chen Feng had been traveling frequently for business. Our relationship had been great for many years. But that time, I even began to suspect him, and we had quite a long spat. Yet, his checkup results were all normal, and I couldn't find any suspicious people in his social circle. It wasn't until later that Bai Zhao and Gu Ming were caught by the police for engaging in scandalous activities in the restroom that I realized I had suspected the wrong person. The house was indeed very dirty. I instructed the assistant to arrange for a thorough disinfection of the entire house before heading out to the office. However, I ended up caught in heavy traffic on the way. Since my workplace was not far from there, I parked the car on the side and prepared to walk the rest of the way. That was when I saw Gu Ming. He was wearing sunglasses, driving the car I had bought for Bai Zhao, throwing stacks of cash out the window. Is this enough? Is it not enough? In the front seat was a girl with a bloody scrape on her knee. A pink stack of money was flung onto her face, scattering everywhere. She stubbornly shook her head. You hit me and insulted my dignity, I called the police. I won't accept a private settlement. You better move your car to the side and not block the road for others. Her voice was gentle, and she spoke logically, making it easy to like her at first glance. Then Bai Zhao got out of the passenger seat. Alright, just back off, what's the point? Even if the police come, do you know who my parents are? At that moment, I recalled my parents. Onlookers were pointing at them. This couple really has no sense, they hit someone and are so unreasonable. What does your dad have to do with it? It's a lawful society now. Crazy, why should we care about you? Bai Zhao's mental state was steadily maintaining its instability. Shut up. Let's see who dares to speak ill of my wife. Do you believe I'll beat you all up? Gu Ming also got out of the car, slammed the door shut, and wrapped his arms around Bai Zhao's waist, giving her a French kiss. An elderly man next to me watching the commotion commented, "This couple is really something. Do they think they're in a TV drama, acting all dramatic in the middle of the street?" I scoffed. Haven't they always been like this, making a big scene no matter what they do, as if they were at war with the whole world? Little did they know that to others, it was simply annoying. As long as they didn't affect anyone else, it would be fine, but this time, Bai Zhao had truly crossed my bottom line. I had taught her many things, but I had never taught her to be unkind. I really think you've lost your mind, I said, stepping forward to help the girl on the ground. Mom, she's faking it. Quickly help me deal with her. As soon as she saw me, Bai Zhao's eyes brimmed with tears. I didn't do anything, the light was green. And I was just crossing the road normally. It's you who didn't obey traffic rules, the girl countered, also holding back tears. Only when I held her and wrapped my arm around her shoulder did I realize she was trembling. She was scared too, but still stubbornly wanted to seek justice for herself. Yes, we all saw it, the traffic police can testify for her when they arrive. The bystanders chimed in. Don't be afraid, I'll take you to the hospital first. You're hurt pretty badly, we need to take care of your wounds. I promise, even though I'm her mother, I absolutely won't favor her, the police will judge according to the facts. The girl looked at me intently and nodded slightly. Suddenly, I found her a bit familiar, as if I had seen her somewhere. Mom. Bai Zhao stomped her foot behind me, angrily calling out to me. But I didn't turn around. I've already paid for your medical expenses and hired a caregiver for you. Please take this card. Besides the normal judgment from the traffic police, this is my apology to you for not raising my daughter well, causing you to suffer. The girl had a fracture in her left leg and needed to be hospitalized. I stood by her bedside, chatting away. Why hasn't anyone from your family come to see you yet? I asked. Auntie, I don't have any parents, her voice was very soft. My nose felt a bit sour, and my heart softened as I leaned in and gently touched her head. So fluffy. The collar of the hospital gown was very loose, and I suddenly noticed a red birthmark on the back of her neck. It was in a similar position to Bai Zhao's birthmark. In my past life, the nanny had said that it was precisely because their birthmarks were similar in position and appearance that she felt at ease to switch the two children. 4. On the other end, chaos had already erupted at home. As soon as I opened the door, I saw shattered porcelain scattered everywhere. Even the TV had been smashed to pieces. Stay home and don't go looking for that thug. All day long, you're just fooling around. You hit someone and don't even know how to apologize. Did your education go to waste? Chen Feng was furious and utterly disappointed in Bai Zhao. The next second, Bai Zhao's phone was thrown directly at him. He's not a thug. I'm grown up now. How long are you going to control me? At that moment, my thoughts suddenly became clear. Bai Zhao, I'm giving you one last chance. Are you determined to be with Guming? So what if I am? She glared back at me defiantly. Then go ahead. I placed the paternity test results on the table. What's this, a DNA monitoring recommendation? As if realizing something, Bai Zhao picked it up, her hands trembling slightly. For so many years, your father and I have had a question in our minds. After raising Bai Zhao for so many years, I thought that the moment the truth was revealed, I would weep uncontrollably. However, I felt calm inside, with no waves of emotion. We're both highly educated, and our IQs aren't low, so how could we have given birth to a fool? So it turns out you're not even our biological daughter. You said our control over you was too strong and suffocating, didn't you? Now we're giving you your freedom. You perverts. Who would suspect their own child? Bai Zhao shot us a resentful look. Don't you want to pursue love? No one is stopping you now, go ahead and chase it. But with your backbone, I'm sure you won't accept the house and car we bought for you. I wanted to see how far her self-deceiving love could go without a material foundation. I'll return everything to you. She threw the keys on the table. From now on, you are no longer my parents. Don't interfere in my life anymore. With that, she stormed out, leaving behind a heavy silence. Huaiyu, don't cry. When Chen Feng handed me a tissue, I realized I was already in tears. Thinking back, all the hardships in my life had come from Bai Zhao. Chen Feng and I's parents both taught at a university. We grew up together in the staff quarters. The two families knew each other well and got married smoothly as we grew up. Chen Feng didn't originally want kids. He discussed having no children with me, but in the end, he couldn't refuse me. During childbirth, I suffered massive bleeding, and he personally signed my critical condition notice. The child took my last name, Bai, with the single character Zhao, which is explained in the Shuawen as Zhao, the sun shines brightly. I hoped her future would be bright and spacious. Looking back now, I began to believe that some evils are inherently brought by genes. With a morally corrupt biological mother, Bai Zhao had shown some strange traits since childhood. In elementary school, she stole from the school's convenience store and got caught by the owner, who informed the teacher. Bai Zhao told the teacher that she stole because her family was too strict and she felt too oppressed. But aside from the ballet classes she enjoyed, we never forced her into any extracurricular activities or pressured her grades. I didn't understand where her sense of oppression came from. By middle school, she started hanging out with Gu Ming. It was her classmate and best friend who told us, "Auntie, there's a new transfer student in our class who picks on Zhao every day. I feel like he doesn't respect her at all, always making jokes about her with a group of boys, tugging at her bra straps, and whistling at her as she walks by. Auntie, I don't mean to report, I just hope you can protect Zhao." Unfortunately, Bai Zhao didn't see those actions as scrutinizing or degrading. She even attributed them to her own charm. Thus, she quickly fell in love with Gu Ming, who sported a head of yellow hair. We disapproved, and she blamed her family for suffocating her, claiming she was depressed and wanted to commit suicide. After the college entrance examination, she didn't get into university. We planned to send her abroad, but of course, she didn't want to leave Gu Ming, crying and insisting they would never part. In the end, we had pretty much given up on her. The family business had no plans for her to inherit. We didn't want the empire we had built to fall into her hands. But her father and I thought, blood is thicker than water. She had been dancing ballet since childhood, and we used connections to get her into the youth dance troupe in City A. Though the salary was low, at least it was stable. Otherwise, without an education and unable to endure hardship, there wouldn't even be a factory willing to hire her. But she couldn't see our good intentions. It's all over now. Chen Feng wiped away my tears. Yes, it's all over. From now on, her life has nothing to do with me. I've already reported the case and registered our DNA information in the National Gene Bank. We should be able to find our biological daughter soon. And I would make sure the nanny who switched the children paid for her actions. 5. I didn't expect to see the girl Bai Zhao had injured again so soon. I burst into tears and hugged her tightly. She clearly wasn't used to such intimacy and looked at me a bit helplessly. "Hello, Chen Dan, nice to meet you. We are your biological parents. 23 years ago, the nanny we hired switched you with her own child and then left you at the doorstep of an orphanage. Mom and Dad finally found you." Her eyes widened a bit, unable to digest this news for a moment. But she was so gentle, softly stroking my back, silently comforting me. "Actually, I've met you before," she suddenly said. 5 years ago. In your office. I remembered. She was a student I sponsored. The sponsorship was actually because of Bai Zhao. When she was 5 or 6, she was always sick, and no treatment seemed to work. I even consulted a master who said she had taken someone else's life force, was weak by nature, and needed to do more good deeds to accumulate virtue for herself. So, I casually sponsored an entire orphanage, paying for their tuition and living expenses until they graduated from university. Later, I would receive thank you letters from them every year. 5 years ago, the director of the orphanage contacted me through an assistant, saying that one of the children was particularly outstanding and had been accepted to a university and wanted to thank me in person. I was a businessman who valued time as gold, and I originally didn't want to meet. But then I thought this would be a great topic to promote and raise the company's stock price, so I agreed. The girl came with her acceptance letter and bowed deeply to me. I was so focused on work that I didn't even take a good look at her face. Thank you for your sponsorship. Once I graduate and start working, I will do my best to sponsor some girls in the mountains who can't afford an education, so more girls can leave the mountains. She rambled on, but I only patiently listened to that one sentence. That's great, keep it up. Then I had my assistant take her downstairs. The moment she turned around, the gears of fate began to turn slowly. At that time, I had no idea I had just seen my biological daughter and then passed by her. How unfortunate fate could be, yet how lucky. My chance kindness had returned to my own child. 6. Chindan is now studying for her master's degree at a university. The first time I brought her home, my mother's eyes lit up. Xiaodan. You've even attended my class. The old lady teaches etymology in the Chinese department at a university. It's a cold subject, even students majoring in it don't choose it much, yet Dan from the computer science department never misses a single class. Later, Dan told me she chose to study computer science because it pays well. When she filled out her application, she felt she had no parents and needed money. She attended the Chinese department's classes because she was genuinely interested in ancient Chinese. Every class, she would sit in the front row. My mother felt quite sad facing a group of students playing on their phones or doing assignments for other courses. So seeing a girl in the front row with wide open eyes, listening intently, left a deep impression on her. I felt particularly close to you then, but I didn't expect you to be my biological granddaughter. The old lady hugged her, tears in her eyes. After just recognizing her, I had so many things I wanted to do with her. After meeting her grandparents, I took her and Chen Feng to the mall, planning to pick out some clothes for her. President Bai, CEO Chen, it's been a long time since you both visited. The manager of Autumn warmly linked arms with me. Her husband is the head of the youth dance troupe, so I often spend lavishly here. For no other reason than I want Bai Zhao's path in the dance troupe to be smoother. Let my daughter choose some clothes, bring out the latest styles. I subtly withdrew my hand. Now that Bai Zhao is no longer my daughter, I had no need to curry favor with her. I could treat myself as an ordinary consumer. Daughter? She looked at Chindan in surprise. Weren't you supposed to have only one daughter, Zhao? Bai Zhao is not my biological child, I no longer have any relationship with her. Recognize the face? This is my daughter, Chindan. From now on, when she comes here to shop, just put it on my tab. I wrapped my arm around Chindan's shoulders, and Dan naturally greeted her. The manager was the shrewdest person, her little calculations written all over her face. I knew Bai Zhao's future in the youth dance troupe probably wouldn't be so smooth. But that was no longer my concern. Didn't she always complain that we restricted her? Then let's welcome her in advance to a reality without parental protection. 7. After gathering all the evidence, Chen Feng and I filed a lawsuit against the nanny from that year. We accused her of deliberately switching the babies and committing abandonment. Her crimes were serious, and in the end, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison. You guys are crazy, even now you want to harm my biological mother. On the day the court announced the verdict, Bai Zhao screamed at me hysterically. Bai Zhao, it was her who switched my biological daughter, allowing her to grow up in an orphanage. You and your mother truly have a knack for turning black into white. I rubbed my temples, feeling that she was utterly unreasonable. Mom, don't be angry. Let's go home. Dan's voice was gentle, quietly soothing my agitation. I thought I would never see Bai Zhao again in this lifetime. Unexpectedly, a few days later, she called me. She was sobbing uncontrollably, stuttering as she spoke. Mom, I'm so scared. Mom, I'm at the police station. Can you come pick me up? I'm really scared. A police officer nearby took the phone and explained the situation to me. I found out that she had been caught doing something with Gu Ming in a public restroom, and the noise had gotten a bit too loud. The girl in the next stall couldn't take it anymore and called the police. She was detained for 5 days for disturbing public order. A wave of disgust washed over me. I really didn't know if Bai Zhao had lost her mind or if she had some kind of addiction. "I'm not your mother," I reminded her again. "Weren't you the one who complained that we interfered in your life? Now we're not interfering. You chose this path, so just stick with it." I hung up the phone and blocked Bai Zhao. Naturally, I had no idea that on the other end of the line, Gu Ming had his hands cuffed and was cursing angrily. "Bai Zhao, do you have any shame? You were the one who seduced me. Officer, did you see what she was wearing today? She's the one who seduced me, you can just detain her. Bai Zhao, hurry and call your parents to sort this out. Aren't they rich?" Silence. The officer reminded him multiple times, but he was still shouting and was forcefully subdued, pressed to the ground. Meanwhile, Bai Zhao kept calling my number over and over. "The number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. Please try again later. Mom, please answer the phone. Hurry up and pick up." Her tears finally began to pour out. Unfortunately, she would never receive a call from her mom and dad again. 8. "Mom, what's this?" Looking at the key I handed her, Chendan asked in confusion. "Isn't it exam week soon? Don't exhaust yourself fighting for a spot in the study room. I bought a small apartment near the school for you. You can go there to study, and it won't disturb your roommate's rest." I touched her face. This child had lost some weight. She was now in her first year of graduate school, and during exam week, she was swamped with reports, papers, and tests. I also graduated from a university, so I knew very well that the library closes at 10 p.m. without fail. By then, the dormitory lights would also be out. If you couldn't secure a seat in the all-night study room, many students would have to study in the hallway or even the restroom. Dan hugged me, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you, Mom. No one has ever been this good to me." I don't know how to respond. "I feel like I don't deserve this from you." "What nonsense are you talking? No one deserves it more than you." I patted her fluffy head, playfully scolding her. "Don't stay up late, okay? This is chicken ginseng soup that Dad made for you." I handed her the thermos. "When you're not so busy, I'll sign you up for driving school." Previously, due to financial constraints, Chendan had never gotten her driver's license. She scratched her head. "Maybe I won't get a license. Anyway, if I need to go anywhere, you can just call the driver to pick me up." "I suggest you still get one," I said, ruffling her hair. "Because I think this is an important skill. Once you have your license, I'll buy you a car so you can go wherever you want without needing to ask anyone." These were the words my mother told me when she took me to driving school on my 18th birthday. Mom hopes you can be free and independent, able to support yourself and go out without needing someone to take you. Financial freedom, freedom of thought, and freedom of movement, these are what true freedom is. Unfortunately, Bai Zhao could only superficially understand this as being unrestrained. "You're right. I'll sign up for driving school after my exams," Dan agreed with me. I was a bit taken aback. Ever since Bai Zhao started middle school, we hadn't communicated this harmoniously. Isn't it annoying? Always making me study this and that, without any breathing room. When I suggested Bai Zhao take the driving test back then, she didn't even look up, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she chatted with Gu Ming non-stop. Gu Ming said only unloved women need to get their driver's license. I can go wherever he goes, he'll drive me for life. I don't need that thing. After she finally got her driver's license, the car I bought her was always driven by Gu Ming. She often mentioned feeling stifled, and over time, I began to doubt myself. Dan, am I pushing you too hard? If you're uncomfortable, you must tell me. I know that there should be boundaries between mothers and daughters. But Chen Dan hugged me even tighter. Not at all. Since I was little, no one has really taken care of me. I like being cared for by mom and dad. This is love, I only feel happy. I simply didn't know how to pamper this daughter. Getting the HPV vaccine, having a full body checkup, oh, she seems to have a cavity she hasn't been willing to pay to get treated. I want my child to live a long, healthy life. Dan suddenly hit her head with her fist. So it turns out all of this is real. To be honest, I've been floating in the clouds these days, not daring to believe I suddenly have so many relatives. Please keep an eye on me so I can float up here a little longer. At that moment, my hatred for that nanny reached its peak. If it weren't for her, my daughter wouldn't have to live so cautiously. 9. The seasons are about to change, and the autumn-winter wind blows cold against the skin. As I was tidying up the wardrobe, I looked at Dan's winter clothes. They were somewhat old, washed many times, and not very warm. So I decided to stick to my previous habit and take her to autumn to buy new clothes. When she went to the fitting room, the store manager came over with drinks and snacks. President Bai, the child must be bored waiting. Please help yourself to some snacks. She was quite familiar with me since I often brought Bai Zhao here. Bai Zhao always affectionately called her auntie, and she responded with a smile, treating her with even more warmth than me, her own mother. This time, however, the manager seemed hesitant to speak. Do you know that Bai Zhao's boyfriend has been causing trouble from time to time? I have no relationship with her anymore, and I haven't been in contact lately, I answered casually. The manager noticed my lack of interest in her matters, but still revealed the details. It turned out that the dance troupe was currently rehearsing Swan Lake, and Bai Zhao was partnering with a male dancer for a duet. The lifting, spinning, and jumping moves were all graceful and had no implications. Unfortunately, with Gu Ming's cultural background, he couldn't appreciate it at all. He rushed onto the stage and tried to hit the male dancer. What did you do to my girlfriend? I'm telling you, if you touch her once, I'll hit you once. In front of a crowd of colleagues, Bai Zhao was embarrassingly mortified. Gu Ming, stop making trouble. I'm working. What kind of work is that? You're out there selling yourself, dressed like this, letting him touch you. Gu Ming was never one to hold back his words, openly spilling everything. After she started dating someone like him, everyone in the troupe began to avoid Bai Zhao. My husband told me that if he causes more trouble, Zhao Zhao might not be suitable for the dance troupe anymore. The manager cautiously observed my reaction. President Bai, you wouldn't be angry about this, would you? I let out a cold laugh. Ah, Bai Zhao, when you were by my side, the manager smiled sweetly at you, didn't she? You don't realize that the smile on her face wasn't meant for you. Without the solid family background supporting you, I want to see if there are still as many good people in the world as there used to be. I won't interfere in this matter. Her biological mother sent my child away. I have only hate for her, not love. Everything will be according to the rules of the dance troupe. If she's not suitable, then we'll handle it according to the regulations. Just as I finished speaking, Dan walked out of the fitting room. Mom, the clothes I tried on fit well. But are they too expensive? Oh, my little princess, I'm here. Just focus on whether you like them, don't worry about money. The manager's smile and flattery toward Dan mirrored how she used to treat Bai Zhao. What a reality so utterly shattered. 10. While driving Dan home, we hit a red light, and the driver stepped on the brakes. I noticed Bai Zhao by the roadside. In the dreary weather, she was shivering in the cold wind, without even an umbrella. Recognizing the family car, she rushed over, banging on the window. I felt annoyed and rolled down the window just a crack. Dan, let me open the window. Put on your hat so you don't catch a cold, you've been coughing a bit already. Take me home. Bai Zhao still used that familiar commanding tone. You're no longer my daughter. Go find your biological mother, she's in prison. She looked at the shopping bags in the car and suddenly softened her tone. Mom, why didn't you answer my calls? You have a new daughter now, so you really won't care about me anymore, will you? Your heart is really ruthless. She really had the audacity to turn the tables. Bai Zhao, I gave you a chance before I cut ties with you. If you had walked the right path, even if Dan Dan came back, you two could have been sisters. But you said we suffocated you. Can you breathe now? Or have you already been bent over by life? I heard a horn honking from behind her electric bike. Hurry up and get in, Bai Zhao. It's just a bit of rain, can't you take the bus home? Why do you insist on having me pick you up? You can't even ride your bike, it's driving me crazy. You're really stupid. Your parents bought you a car, and you didn't even bring it back. Could we afford to bring it back? You wouldn't even earn back the gas money in a day. They had strong psychological resilience and weren't afraid of being laughed at when shouting on the roadside. The light turned green. I rolled the window back up, and the driver stepped on the gas. In the rain, Bai Zhao's tears, sweat, and the rain mixed together. She desperately pounded on my window. Mom, I know I was wrong, Mom. Open the door. Open the door, Mom. Her cries were drowned out by the heavy rain. Mom, don't be sad. Chen Dan suddenly hugged my arm. You still have me. I held her close and kissed her forehead. Yes, Mom still has you. 11. The last time I saw Bai Zhao was 5 years later. She was blocking the entrance to my community. I could hardly recognize her. The young girl who was not yet 30 had a head full of silver hair. Her eyelids drooped, her face had a loose and sagging look, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Most alarmingly, she exuded a greasy feeling, as if she had been soaked in the mundane struggles of life. Mom, you really don't want me anymore, do you? Her voice when she spoke to me had never been so light. She grabbed my arm and rambled on. After being dismissed from the dance troupe, I haven't worked since. I got pregnant, and Gu Ming told me not to work. He said he would support me. But after the baby was born, we had no money and could only give him the cheapest formula and the cheapest diapers. Sometimes, I hold him and can't help but cry, thinking I shouldn't have brought him into this world. She choked up and paused for a moment. I never knew before that housing prices in City A were so high, it's like an astronomical figure. I can only squeeze into a 30 square meter shared courtyard with his parents and his aunt and uncle, without even a toilet, having to wait in line to use a public restroom. I thought I was already saving enough, but his mother still scolded me for being wasteful. I really want to dance. On stage. My body feels so light, enough to shake off all my worries. But after giving birth, my figure changed completely. I've lost all my basic skills like handstands and back bends. I can never dance again in my life. My life is ruined. I was impatient to hear her talk about these things, but Chen Dan still held on to me. The dark circles under your eyes don't look like you've been staying up late. Has someone been bullying you? Chen Dan's voice was gentle. She didn't resent Bai Zhao's mother for sending her to the orphanage. But at this moment, her face showed only a girl's sympathy and empathy for another girl. It was Gu Ming who hit me. Mentioning the painful topic made her sob uncontrollably. He scolded me for always asking him for money and blamed me for cutting off contact with you. He hit me once, and then he started hitting me often. Sometimes, he beat me so badly that I had no good flesh left. I was so scared, I locked the door from the inside, and he stood outside with a kitchen knife. Mom, do you know how scared I was holding the baby and listening to the banging outside? This bastard even laid hands on the child. Domestic violence is my bottom line. Even if Bai Zhao and I have become estranged, I cannot stand by and watch a stranger girl succumb to her husband's fists. This is Lawyer Chen's business card. If you need legal assistance, you can contact him. However, as a stranger, there was only so much I could do. Mom, I was planning to divorce him, but I'm afraid he'll retaliate against me. I don't care about myself, but after having the child, I'm most afraid of him using the child to threaten me. The little girl who once complained about my meddling had finally become a mother herself and realized that a child is a mother's weakness. Isn't your biological mother out of prison? Can't she help you take care of the child? I softened my voice. My brother's wife also gave birth. She's taking care of that family and can't spare any time. Thinking about it, how could a mother like that, who was like a postpartum nanny, not favor boys over girls? Bai Zhao had already been ground down by life, all her sharpness dulled. Society took 5 years to teach her to hide her hurtful claws. Mom, I'm begging you, I really don't want my child to live in fear. But the person who caused you fear was someone you chose yourself. I'm sorry, we have our own things to deal with. You should find someone else. Chen Feng and I were steadily expanding our business territory. Chen Dan was outstanding. After studying management abroad, she began to gradually take over the family business. With such a talented daughter, President Bai is truly blessed. Every time I took Chen Dan out for business meetings, people would always smile and praise her when they learned she was a graduate student from University A. Everyone tacitly avoided mentioning Bai Zhao, as if I had never had a daughter who hadn't even gone to college and wanted to elope with a thug. As Chen Dan held onto my arm and was about to leave, Bai Zhao called me from behind. Mom, I had a dream where you always cared for me, loved me, and never gave up on me. But later, I made you so angry that you had a heart attack, and there wasn't enough time to save you before you passed away. Mom, is this true? Tears fell from my eyes. For the life that ended abruptly before it could fulfill its dreams. Don't call me that, I am no longer your mother. In this life, let me draw a line under our relationship with my own hands. End of the text.